middle.
Yeah,
And you just gotta, kind of like walk a thin line, like when you're writing this, to make sure you don't exclude anybody.
yeah, and that's basically, if you look at most movies that came out in the 80s, 90s and stuff like that, that's the way that they were. Unfortunately, there's so many movies that comes out these days that have one agenda that you separate so many people, and that's why there's so many people like today. Movies are debated so much more today because of their message and their like one message agenda.
Yeah.
And the reason why movies of yesteryear are so good is because they're not like that. They're not politically driven. They're able to point out bullshit in everything. And Sick was a breath of fresh air because at one time, all we were getting were politically agenda movies that were, leaning towards one side and one side only. And, thank goodness this one didn't do that. There
I hope
are
we're past that point now.
Yeah, well, I give kudos to the director for, like you said, it's hard to make a political movie and not piss off or seem like you're on one side when you can seem like you're in the middle and hold up a mirror and to both of them and say, hey, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but, we're in the middle here. I think that's talent to do these days. And,
yes.
And it's, especially when you got pressure from studios and stuff like that who might lean one way and stuff like that. So kudos to Sick for not making a one-sided argument in a film and being neutral and making and realizing that we wanted a straightforward horror movie, and that's what that's what you gave us. You put the horror first and foremost, and Sick is definitely one of the best slasher films of the entire year.
Yeah, a great movie. Probably be talking about this for years to come. Speaking about talking about something that is very surprising and sick is number 15 for me, and that is The Pope's Exorcist. The only Exorcist that was worth a fuck last year, in my eyes. It was very surprising. I
got this very, very far on my list, so this is all you.
You got it further up?
Well, further down, actually.
No, we're going up. We're not going down.
No, we're going down. We're counting to number 1, which is technically going down.
Whatever. You can go down right here. Anyway, The Pope's Exorcist was a pleasant surprise last year. I honestly thought it was going to be a dumpster fire. I thought Russell Crowe was going to crow it up and it'd be pretty much shit. And I was highly wrong, and I ate my shorts on this one. This movie was fantastic. A great story. He's pretty much like the John Wick of The Exorcist and the religious community, and I didn't expect it to go as deep into the Vatican as it did, and it did a great job. Great special effects. The kid was a little off, but that's being nitpicky. I would love to see more of these. I would have loved if this type of character was an Exorcist believer. It would have made it a lot better movie, a lot stronger movie. But this movie, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, it blew me away. Honestly, it was so good. The acting, the family in it, the story. It was a different kind of take on it, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this movie. battled with where I was putting this on the list, but Russell Crowe did an amazing job. I know a lot of people talk shit about him on the internet. Thought his character was kind of shit, but I disagree. I thought he was charming. I thought he reminded me of somebody I've actually worked with before, that I kind of looked at like kind of a father figure, and it was kind of to the point where I got more invested than I should have because could like relate with this person. But yeah, it's a great movie. If you have not seen it, I highly suggest that you watch The Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah, I'm going to save my opinions, like I said, later on because it's a little bit, further down my list. But I'm going to get to my number 15 right now, and that's a movie that you talked about earlier called Slaughterhouse. And I'm just going to add to what you said. Yeah, this is, if you want to do a horror comedy, this is the way to do it. It was over the top, but it wasn't over the top to the point where it was a turn off or just absolutely unbelievably stupid. This is if you're going to make a horror comedy and put it in theaters or make it mainstream, this is the way you do it. This is the difference between making a lowbrow, like roll your eyes comedy, and making a quality type of horror comedy. That's
Right.
the best way I can describe it. It was the setting is great, the actors are great, everything is great. There are scenes with the slaughter that are designed to make you laugh and designed to, give you a chuckle. And that's exactly what they do without without seeming too goofy with it. There's some movies out there that don't know how to balance these things, and they either go too goofy to the point where it's a spoof. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the difference if you watch this. If you watch like Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2, and then you watch the rest of them, you can tell the difference in the quality.
Yes.
You can tell the difference in quality comedy and bullshit comedy, which is, and then you get to superhero movies and all these other parody movies that are supposed to be funny, but they don't end up being funny. They just end up being so goddamn dumb. Like the people that make these movies say, we're going to make the dumbest shit ever that's going to make people laugh. And people are not going to laugh just because it's dumb. They need something to laugh about. Scary Movie 1 and 2 and Haunted House 1 and 2 is a perfect example. The Wayans brothers know how to make a goddamn comedy movie, people.
They really do. I mean,
And,
Don't Be a Menace. You can
but
go on and on.
Getting back to an actual horror comedy, this is not a comedy horror. This is a horror comedy. There is there is death scenes and stuff like that, which people have a hard time telling the difference between a horror comedy and a comedy horror. This was a movie where the horror is first and foremost, and it happens to be funny. A comedy horror is first and foremost, it's going to be funny. Then it just happens to have a horror theme to it. This is the first one.
Scary Movie.
Yes, Scary Movie is a comedy horror.
Right.
And this is a horror comedy. Anyway, everything you said about it is great. Slaughterhouse is, we're going to talk about a movie later on called Cocaine Bear, which is very similar to this and has the very similar feel to it. So,
Just done better.
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of better, at 14, I had Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Like I said, I had a little bit higher on my list, not too much. But you said pretty much everything that I could possibly say. I don't want to repeat it. I threw my 2 cents in on making it a series. We're getting a lot more horror series, so I think I would be on board with a horror series of that. We got Welcome to Derry coming and Crystal Lake and possibly a Halloween. Why not throw Pet Cemetery, I don't know, Lineage or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, this could be the year, or maybe the next 2 years could be the years that old school horror films finally get TV series with your Friday the 13th, your Halloweens, your It's, Pet Cemeteries, and all this other stuff. If you don't want to keep making the mistakes and making films and stuff like that, and you want to have a little bit more freedom to tell your story over a period of time instead of cramming it into an hour and a half movie, maybe the series could be the place to go. You know, there's been success with all kinds of films. You know, they made a From Dusk Till Dawn series. You know, there's been series in the past that have done really well with series. So, you know, plus you get, like I said, you get to tell more of an in-depth story.
Yeah, the chains aren't quite as bound.
I really wish they would have done it for Hellraiser. Instead of giving us that movie that they did, they would have done the series, and that would have, to me, that would have been a whole lot better. Same thing with Candyman.
Candyman could be done very well.
Yeah.
And then it could be scattered on like they did Chucky.
Yeah.
God, the fucking potential they had with that show.
Yeah. Let's before we go any further, you know, let's talk about, since we're on that train right now, let's talk about how somebody can scat on like you said, Chucky, right? Yeah. Where you have the first season, and the first season you're like, okay, all right, I see.
Yeah, it went back to its slasher roots.
Yeah, it's okay. Then the second season, you're like, some episodes I would have done a little bit different, but overall, I can see it. I can see it. And then you get to the third, and you're like, the fuck.
Yeah, it was like, what?
And what the fuck? That's kind of like the movies go, right? You watch the first one, you watch the second one, you watch the third one, and it's classic Chucky. And then the fourth one,
you're like,
the fourth one is Bride of Chucky, and Bride is like, okay, it's a little bit different, but
I can get behind it.
Then Seed comes out, and then you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, how did they fuck this up? How did they, like, you remember what I said earlier about going too overboard with comedy?
Yeah.
And making somebody, the difference between somebody chuckling and somebody going, this is stupid, I'm not, just because it's dumb doesn't mean I'm going to laugh at it.
Right.
Yeah, that was what Seed and Chucky. And to be honest with you, this isn't turning into a shit on Chucky thing, but I just want to get it off my chest because, you know, we're talking about it because it's leading to why that series went downhill. Cult of Chucky and what's the other one? Curse of Chucky. Let's be honest, they're entertaining to a certain point, but they're not good movies.
No, that's the reason why they were straight to video.
Yeah, and that's how the series was. The series was like first half pretty good, then the second half they don't know how to finish this off. The Chucky series is kind of like watching a porno film. It's like in the beginning of it, like the dude is fucking the chick the way you want him to fuck, right?
Sure.
But then towards the end, his dick starts getting limp, and then he starts to come, and it's just like, you know, and it's like, you should have came a lot more than that.
Oh my God, I can't believe you just made that analogy.
Like, you can't get behind it, you know, and pretty soon it gets boring, right? And you just start yelling at the screen, you know, fuck her in the ass or do something else, you know.
I mean, I get where you're going, and I do agree. Chucky, it was definitely...
We went off the old Hershey Highway on this one.
Chucky definitely...
we took like a left turn.
It was like watching your stock go up, and you're all invested, and then that motherfucker plummets and crashes, and then you're like jumping out of a second-story window, head first, because you've lost everything. And that's how I feel about Chucky. I want Chucky to... I don't want Chucky. I want Child's Play.
Yeah, if you notice, Child's Play